What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I am Ant217 and it's October. Do you know what that means? Inktober art. I love Inktober. It's my favorite art challenge. I actually never participated in Inktober. I do one or two here and there, but I've never done the whole month. I will though, 1 year. It's gonna be 1 year that I'm just gonna do all of them. The contrast of the pieces, the pen and ink, the markers, everybody just does outstanding work. So I thought that maybe today I will try to do an Inktober piece. Now, I'm not gonna follow any of the Inktober official prompts. And the reason for that is because I'm not gonna do the whole month. So just gonna make my own thing. So without further ado, today I participate in Inktober. Let's get started. So to start, let's take a look at the Inktober official website. This is the Inktober challenge. It was created by Jake Parker. Good job, Jake. Good job. So I'm gonna go to the rules. So the rules state you must make a drawing in ink. You can do a pencil under drawing if you want to. Then post it, then hashtag it, and then repeat for the next day. Seems easy enough. I'm not gonna follow the rules. Now, I am gonna do a pencil under drawing, but I don't draw traditionally. I haven't drawn traditionally in years. I should, but I'm gonna make my own rules. We will get to those rules later. So like always, I'm gonna start with my sketch, just like I'm allowed to. All right, but again, I'm gonna be drawing digital, but I am still gonna make it look like Inktober. I mentioned I'm gonna make my own rules earlier, and I will get to that. But first, let's get this sketch done. So you see here, I am looking at my hand. I am referencing my actual own hand to draw this zombie hand, which is a great thing to do. I know a lot of people struggle with drawing hands and they look for references, but most of you have two hands, most of you. So just look at your hand or take photos of your hand and use your hand as a reference if you cannot find a photo. What is that? What is that hand? Oh God. Yeah, so after looking at my hand for a while, this is what I drew. And it kind of looks like some sort of octopus or something. So I'm gonna retry. I'm gonna erase this and try it again. So one of the main tips I have for drawing hands is this right here. I'm gonna show you a really cool trick on drawing hands. Start with that shape. It's a good base for the hands. And then you do another one, a little smaller. And there you have it. Don't draw them. Give all your characters pirate hook hands. Think about it. Think about all the cool things we could do with hook hands. Making sandwiches, hanging up our clothes, wiping our... Another way I like to draw hands is starting with this shape, this 3D looking shape, because that's what, if you look at your hand, you can see the 3D shapes that it's made out of. I like to start with this shape, and I'm also going to change the pose because I want it a little bit more foreshortened. Finally, there you have it, first try. So that is my zombie. I like the way he looks. He looks a little disheveled. His clothes are all ripped up because, you know, they're hungry. They're always fighting for their next meal. And if you get in their way of the next meal, they're gonna fight for it. Kind of like me with cookies. Look at this beautiful man. Look at him. Look at him. You see him on Tinder? Where you gonna swipe? Beautiful man. All right, guys, so this is the zombie, but I still feel like something is missing. His friends. So at the top left, we have a werewolf. I wanted to add him in. Couldn't really fit him into the composition, so I just stuck him up there. That's all right. So beside the werewolf, we have Jack-o'-lantern holding the head of Dracula. Behind them, you have the Grim Reaper himself, Death. Next to him, you have a mummy of a pharaoh. Right next to the mummy, you have a a ghost. Bear with me, he's gonna look awesome, I hope. Then you have a witch who is right above that handsome devil we drew earlier, the zombie. And this right here is Kate. Kate tripped. Kate always trips. Why do they always trip in horror movies? I don't even remember the last time I tripped. I don't trip. It's not something that I do. Most people just don't go around life tripping. High knees, Kate. High knees. Now, before we get started, I want to show you guys some tricks on composition and some things I was thinking about when I started working on this piece. One thing when you're working on a big piece like this is you want to think about your composition. You don't want it to look like a cluttered mess. This doesn't look like a cluttered mess, right? Now, when I was doing this piece, I was going for the golden ratio. For those of you who don't know what the golden ratio is, it's a method that you can use to divide your shapes and your lines in an aesthetically pleasing way. I Googled that. So I'm gonna show you what the golden ratio is on this piece. I started here, went down to her, followed the leg up to the zombie, back to the witch, then around, and then with this focal point right here. All right, so then you want to get that shape going is like that and like that. That's the golden ratio. Then I use another thing I learned about composition. When things point, your eye tends to follow. So I use the broom here to make sure your eye goes this way or this way toward the center. So we go back up here. It points to the head of the vampire. So I think I need to come up with some rules. Since I'm not actually using any inks, I'm a digital artist. I like the undo button. Anyway, since I'm doing digital Inktober, I'm cheating, that's okay. Don't tell anybody, it's between me and you. Obviously, I'm gonna use black pen, maybe some airbrushing, and a watercolor pen. I like the texture on that. Maybe I'll add one color, but when I add color, I will be using the watercolor. Now let's get started with the inking. I'm starting with the ink on Kate, Trippy Kate. I'm gonna just get to the inking of this, just tracing over the sketch that I already had before I start adding any of the actual Inktober style rendering. Kate, if your feet are as weird as your hands are, now I understand why you tripped.
Oh, there it is.
Alright, so I just continue with the inking on all the characters, like the jack-o'-lantern and the vampire head, and I move on to the witch, just tracing over my original sketches before I really go into detail on these characters. Alright, so after I trace over all my sketches with the ink, this is what I have. I did put in a temporary fill color just because when it's transparent, the lines intersect and it looks a little messy. And you don't have to do this. I like to do this to see the composition further. But now I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna complete all the rendering. Alright, so I know I said I'm gonna use black and white and, you know, grayish, I guess. I do want to add just a little bit of saturation to my gray, just a little bit, so it's still gray, all right? So it's black, white, and 50 shades of black, you perverts. Yeah, nasty. All right, so to start, I pretty much just did my normal process, except I used this cool gray color. I did want to go for a more cell shading style because Inktober is more cell shaded, I feel like. But yeah, everything else was pretty much normal. Now, because it's Inktober, I do want to add more inked elements. I know technically Inktober, you can use different color inks. I think when it originally started, it was focusing more on inking. So when people do inking, it's usually just black lines. So I do want to focus a little bit more on that. So I'm going to add just thicker, blacker lines and things that are more engulfed in shadow. Part of the challenge for me is making sure that you don't lose the hair in the skin. Because the tones are so similar, you might lose them when they come into contact with each other. So I'm trying to differentiate the hair from the skin a little bit. I'm gonna do that by making the hair just a little bit darker and maybe adding some more black lines to separate them.
Alright, and now I jump straight into the rendering and coloring of the jack-o'-lantern. Coloring the pumpkin was so much fun. I feel like it kind of looks like a real pumpkin just by putting in those little dark spots, like bruises on fruits and stuff. Adding the one color, which is orange, on the jack-o'-lantern was obviously easy. He is a pumpkin on fire, so that was pretty simple. Also, I used dark black pants just to get some contrast between him and Kate.
Grim should be a little easier because he's just a skull with a black blanket on him. I'm gonna go ahead and just continue with Grim. I got a bone to pick with you.
So for the Grim Reaper, I went for a Dementor look. I did this by using an airbrush and just making that pattern at the bottom of his cloak. I did this because I wanted some contrast behind the mummy, and I think it came out really good. For the ghost, I went with more white, obviously. Ghosts are usually white. But since I am using digital art, I was able to lower the transparency of the rendered layers so you can see the moon behind him. I thought that was really cool. If you were doing traditional, you would have to actually paint that moon in.
And then I moved on to the witch, and the witch took more time than the others because I just had more fun painting her. I used way more black on her than I did the others, and I think it came out great. I used black on her broom to pop the contrast, and her cell shading I think came out the best. For her extra color, I just used a little bit of orange in her shoes, and I come in later and I add more orange. And I definitely feel like she was way too pretty because the other characters are scary. So I went in and I just added a little bit of eye makeup just to darken it up, just to try to make her a little scarier because she's gorgeous. And now we move on to the zombie. You know, originally, he was gonna be a self-portrait, but I thought for my younger viewers, that would be too scary. And for the zombie, I had a little bit more of a challenge because I couldn't use the rotten, fleshy colors that I would normally use. I just had to use a darker gray, so that's what I did. I used darker gray for like under the cheekbones and to make the eyes look more sunken in and make him look more sickly. And then I used this splotchy brush to make him look dirtier. And for his one color, I used a little blood spatter, which I think was a great idea, and I think he came out great. In fact, I think the whole piece came out great, so you know what? Here it is, the finished piece. Alright everybody, this is my Inktober piece. I actually really like it. I did add a Ghost of a Black Cat. I really think that these two are my favorites. I feel like they can probably be in their own piece. All in all, I think it came out pretty great. This is my Inktober piece. If you liked it, please hit subscribe and that like button. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me which one you think is your favorite, and tell me also, why do you think Kates are always falling down? I am Ant217 and I'm awesome. I think. Thanks for watching. Did I scare you?